That's a lovely, gentle song to wake up to. If you have just woken up this morning, good morning. That was Diana Ross. It's BBC Essex. It's 12 minutes past 8. It always surprises me how much voluntary work people do in Essex. Yesterday I was listening to Jodie Smith on BBC Essex Saturday Breakfast and listening to a woman from Chelmsford who spends much of her free time with a team of other volunteers helping out at Broomfield Hospital. And my newspaper reviewer this morning is another volunteer, one who's with that organisation that run a lot of events you and I go to in Essex. Whether it's a fireworks show or a summer show, it's often the Rotary Club which has helped to organise it. So good morning to Dave Almond, member of the Chelmsford May Day Rotary Club. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, how long have you been involved with Rotary?
I've been involved for about 10 years, and I belong to the Chelmsford Mildmay Rotary Club. Mm-hmm. And I got into it quite by accident, really. I was in the golf club, and one of my golf companions was sitting over the other side, and he had this tiny little badge on his coat. And I went over, I said, "What's that, David?" And he said, "It's a Rotary badge." And I said, "Oh, I'd love to be a Rotarian." He said, "Well, come along to a meeting and we'll see how things go." And I've never looked back.
Why did you?
Absolutely.
Why did you say I'd love to be a Rotarian? What was
because
it about it?
Being a teacher, teachers can't get lunchtime off. And ergo, you can't go to Rotary meeting, which I thought were all held at lunchtime, which they're not. So anyway, I've been in Rotary for 10 years and I'm absolutely loving it.
What do you get out of it?
Well, I get out of it what I put into it. I've been president of the club now, and I thoroughly enjoyed that because I'm not the best person maybe to be sitting in the chair, but people seem to enjoy the way I looked after the meetings and so on and so forth.
Well, we all have different styles of doing things, yes. Don't we? So to say you may not be the best person, you could well be the best person.
Yeah. And that led me on to one of the things, I would never ever have dreamt of joining Chelmsford Community Radio. And it's because I'm a Rotarian that I co-run a programme which goes out once a month for 2 hours. And that is something maybe I can talk about later on, but that is absolutely terrific.
So what have you helped organise in Chelmsford, say, this last year?
Well, over the last 2 or 3 years, over the last 5 years, we had a very, very serious programme where we recycled computers which went to Tanzania. And we filled, in fact, I think it was 3 huge containers full of containers which went to Tanzania, which mean that people in the middle of absolutely nowhere in Tanzania have been able to get onto the use computers and improve their lifestyles.
How do you find out that people in Tanzania need computers? I mean, it's a long way away.
Well, because one of our members, he was called Amani Seduyeka, was a student at the university here in Chelmsford. And he was one of our members.
So that was the connection.
And that was the connection. And he suggested that maybe people have got computers which are not using anymore. Would we like to help? And then, that snowballed.
So how do you find the time?
Well,
for Rotary, I mean, it's going to take up time. So how do you find it?
Well, it's a question of, I'm retired.
Oh, that's a help.
And I go to a meeting most weeks, and then the rest of the time, when I need to be at other meetings or do other things, and I find that time to do it.
So you're a busy boy, you're retired, but you still go to other meetings other than Rotary?
Well, yes, I go to. I sing in the Chelmsford Male Voice Choir. That's not really a meeting. That's a real, absolute pleasure.
But you love it. I can tell you do, just by the way you just said that.
Yes. Yes.
Can you imagine life without Rotary, without the Rotary Club?
That's a very, very good question, and I'm glad you asked it because there is a chance, I suppose, that if Rotary does not continue to modernise itself, then the things that Rotary does and has done for the last 100 years will not be able to be done.
Because we've almost expected it to happen, haven't we? Instead of there being an appreciation, there's an expectation. So, for instance, Santa on his sleigh coming round, ringing the bell and visiting neighbourhoods before Christmas.
Yes.
That takes a lot of organising. You've got to think about where you're going to go. You've got to get the sleigh out, make sure it's roadworthy.
Yes. And the thing is, you see, the average age of Rotarians is now something a bit younger than me, in early 70s.
So how are you going to attract new members?
Well, we in all kinds of ways, by relaxing the expectations. For instance, dress. When I started in Rotary, there was a very nice gentleman who used to come up to me every week and say, Dave, it would be nice to see you in a tie next week. And and a jacket, but things have changed, and
that can put people off, can't it?
Well,
I think it's full of stuff shirts.
That's right, and
I don't mean to stereotype.
No,
people,
and it isn't.
No.
And there is one example that a couple of years ago we interviewed on our programme a young lady who's 26 years old, and she was president of one of the Rotary clubs in Essex, and that's what we're doing. We are attracting new people. And that's how it will survive, and it will continue to do good things.
So bring the youth in by making Rotary more adaptable, by making it more
indeed.
this day.
Yes, yeah.
Now, you mentioned just now Chelmsford Vale Male Voice Choir, and you love singing, don't you?
I absolutely love it, yes.
Yeah. What is it about singing that grabs you?
Well, it's the ambience in when we're performing.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not very good compared to some people, and I've got a very, very brief story I might tell you about how terrifying it is. Before one of our concerts recently, I had a one-line solo. Just one line.
And you were terrified?
I was absolutely terrified, and so terrified that in the rehearsal beforehand, I forgot the line.
Because you're so worried about it. You're so worried about doing it wrong, probably.
Yeah, and Pedro, our brilliant tenor, came. He put his hands on my shoulder and he said, "Dave, if that happens again, make it up." So I went in front of the audience of 350 people at Kegs, and I sang the line, and I didn't have any problems.
You just need a kindly word from somebody,
Absolutely.
Don't you? Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a recording of the Chelmsford Male Voice Choir.
What?
And I'm wondering if you're on it. Have a listen to this.
I'm gonna ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. I'm gonna ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. I'm getting ready for the judgment day. My Lord, I'm gonna ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. I'm gonna ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. I'm getting ready for the judgment day. My Lord, are you ready, my brother? Oh, yes. Ready for the journey? Oh, yes. Want to see your Jesus? Oh, yes. I'm waiting for the chariot 'cause I'm ready to go. I'm gonna ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. I'm gonna ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. I'm getting ready for the judgment day. My Lord, are you ready, my sister? Oh, yes. Ready for the journey? Oh, yes. Want to see your Jesus? Oh, yes. I'm waiting for the chariot 'cause I'm ready to go. I never can forget that night, riding the chariot to see my Lord. When my sins were taken away, riding the chariot to see my Lord. My feet were snatched from the miry height, riding the chariot to see my Lord. I serve my Lord till judgment day, riding the chariot to see my
Do you know what I think we should do? I think we should play that for Geraint Thomas, riding his chariot down the Champs-Élysées, God willing, please, to take that final moment in France.
That's not a bad idea.
Fabulous. Do you know, I never knew we had voices like that in Essex.
Well, that's only one of the tunes we play.
And
we sing.
Are you on that?
Yes.
I bet that gave
I was
you
in the
surprise.
third row, and I'm in the baritones.
Yeah.
I'm the baritone rep in the choir.
Well. And who was singing that beautiful, beautiful solo?
Pedro.
Oh, the man that you were talking about earlier.
The man who put his
arms around you.
on my shoulder and said, make it up.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, I suppose we ought to get on to the papers. I mean, I've absolutely loved listening to that. And as I say, you know, it's just got so much content. When you listen to the singing, it's superb. It's Tim was just saying to me, it's like Harry Seacombe-esque. You know, that sort of standard is wonderful to listen to. Just tell me briefly, you're also a radio presenter, aren't you?
Yes, I am. And I've been a radio presenter now for 2.5 years. And I'm the oldest radio presenter on Chelmsford Community Radio. And one of the directors is a former pupil of mine, and he always calls me Mr. Almond. He calls everybody by their first name.
I love that, because you can't get out of the way of it, can you?
No,
you see somebody from school, a teacher, oh, hello, Mr. Almond.
That's right.
I can't call you Dave.
Yes.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, look, we'll just take a quick break, and then... we'll have a look at the papers together. Is that all right?
Certainly.
So my newspaper reviewer this morning is Dave Almond, who's a member of the Chelmsford Mayday Rotary Club.
This is BBC Essex. The Midday Mixtape is where you take control of the music I play. Tony Fisher.
Chris Rea, The Road to Hell.
Penny Lane by the Beatles.
Heart on My Sleeve by Gallagher and Lyle.
Annie in Basildon's got in touch. Hello to Tim, who sent me an email from Chelmsford, as did Jeremy listening in Canvey. What song have you come up with which would be perfect for our clothing midday mixtape?
Beautiful South, Perfect 10.
Sweet love, I love different sizes. I love her body, especially the lights.
Tony Fisher, weekday afternoons from 12 on BBC Essex.
BBC Essex, just coming up to 25 minutes past 8. We must look at the papers. Dave Almond from Chelmsford Mildmay Rotary Club. Let's start then with this subject on blue badges, which we heard in the news with Tim as well earlier on. And which paper's that in?
Yeah, this is in the Sun, and I think it's a very important step forward.
Right.
Because there are so many people in which have that condition, which is autism, and they are now going to be able to be given